Well, as you can see, it's very different to the inside of a normal car. Starting from the right to the left, really, you've got first of all the brake balance bar, which you have to adjust according to whether you're on tarmac or loose surfaces or ice. Basically, the looser the surface and the slippier it is, the more you bias the brakes towards the rear. Here we've got all the fuses, which control the lights, the ignition, things like that, and the starter. Fairly standard dashboard layout, obviously a very prominent rev counter, and also the turbo boost. Normally on full boost it runs on 1.7 bar. Over here we've got the spotlight switches. They are for the main spotlights and the fog lights. We've got the cutout master switch on the electric system. We've got the activator for the plumbed in fire extinguishing system. And because it's a turbocharged car, and one of the big problems with the turbocharger is if the turbo blows or explodes in any way, it tends to set fire to the lubrication system and the oil keeps pumping in and you have a big fire. So there we've got the cut-off for the oil supply to the turbo. These instruments here are so we can monitor, first of all, oil pressure, fuel pressure supply to the fuel injection system, a voltmeter, and possibly one of the most critical of all down here, which is water temperature. That's basically the driver's setup. You know, it's a very comfortable seat, full seat harnesses, a gear lever readily to hand, fairly upright driving position in a rally car, in fact, unlike a Grand Prix car, because you've got to be able to see very well where you're going. You've got to be able to see over the tops of the brows, so you really need to be in a position to control the car as it's jumping about, so we don't have those sort of reclining seat positions. Pedal layout, the only thing unusual there is a very strong footrest, so you can hold yourself firmly into the seat by pressing on the footrest there. So that's really it on the driver's side, and probably the more complicated part of the business is over on the co-driver's side. Okay, up here we've got the rally trip computer. This enables the co-driver to measure the distances very accurately. The road book that we're given defines the route by junctions and says, say, in 2.14 miles turn right. He can activate this. He can program it to accept whichever size of tyre we have on at the time, because the tyre sizes vary, particularly between small forest tyres, big forest tyres, racing tyres. He's also got the fuel level gauge, and probably the most important thing of all, his clocks. One telling the time of the day, one to use on the special stages, which actually gives you just the minutes and seconds. Plus, of course, another array of fuses and relays there. This particular item is the automatic activator for the fire system. If you have a crash and the crew are knocked unconscious, this will sense if there is a fire in the engine compartment or inside the cockpit and will activate the fire extinguisher. A bit further down we've got the brain. This is the engine management system. Most cars these days have it. Fairly critical thing, very reliable generally, but we do have a spare one mounted just above it, so you could pull the main plug out and plug it in. Further down you've got the footrest, again to hold him firmly in the seat. You've got a foot operated horn. That's a requirement on British rallies these days. There were a lot of problems with spectators stepping out into the road to watch a car disappearing, not realising that another car may have been coming along shortly afterwards. So the foot operated horn gives the co-driver the opportunity of giving us some warning. And over here we've got a 0 button for the mechanical trip. The only other items on the co-driver side, which is really the co-driver's job, if you do get a puncture on the stage, it can be fairly critical to change it quickly. Here we've got the brace to release the wheel nuts, and we've also got an electric nut runner so you can spin the nuts off very quickly. In the back of the car we've got the friction rise jack, which is all important. Here's the front of the car. Obviously the most notable thing about it is the Valeo Cibier lights. Two clear long range spots here in the middle, two driving lights which have a spread beam, but not a very wide spread beam, and then we have what are called cornering lights down here. These are not fog lights, but they have a very wide spread on the beam. Obviously if it was foggy we would in fact put true fog lights there with a sharp cut off to the top of the beam. So we'll lift up the bonnet and have a look what's underneath. Right, cut. don't know how to open the bonnet. Here's the Ford Cosworth engine, 2 litres, 16 valve engine, twin overhead cam, turbocharged, and of course one of the biggest things you can do on a turbocharged engine is you can hold the wastegate down tighter and increase the horsepower. This car can give well over 300 horsepower. As we run it, it's about 300 horsepower, tuned to give maximum torque in fact. So there we are, a fairly complex array of pipes, engine management systems, coils, spare coils and various other bits and pieces.